Paranormal in Pennsylvania may discuss topics such as suicide, murder, and other potentially upsetting things. Listener discretion is advised. Hello, and welcome to Paranormal in Pennsylvania,
where we discuss history and hauntings.
Today's story takes us to the woods of eastern PA. I'm Sarah.
And I'm Erica.
Let's get into it. This season, we're being sponsored by our friends at Haunted US. They travel the country bringing you real stories of American hauntings every Thursday at hauntedus.com. Today, we are talking about Hexenkopf Rock, and we really strive to go to every location that we cover on the podcast, because then we can provide firsthand accounts. But this one, we simply did not have time for the amount of requests we were receiving. We were getting them across all of our social media platforms. Someone emailed us about it. So I was like, it's time. We need to cover this place. So, Hexenkopf Rock. A lot of the history is local legend because it literally is a rock in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
So, apparently, it's like a cluster of rocks. It depends on how you look at it. And it's known as the witch's head because Hexenkopf means hexer head in German.
Okay.
And some say it got that name because it actually looks from the side like a witch.
Interesting.
Kind of, if you squint.
Yeah.
But
is it like one of those photos? Have you seen those photos going around where it looks like something, but then if you squint, it like makes up a person's face?
No, that's cool.
So it'll be like a whole picture of cats, like just cats sitting there, and then if you squint, it like looks like Michael Cera or like you know,
that's
like
cool.
it's just kind of a funny thing.
Yeah, then it's like that.
Yeah,
because it's not like one smooth rock. It's like there's ridges in it, so it's kind of hard to see it. I don't know, but people who have been there said it looks like a witch's head, and we haven't been there, so who are we to say?
Right.
And it has a really long history of being used for healing rituals. It started with the natives using it, and then all the way to the German settlers. And what they allegedly did in this rock area is take the sickness or the evil from a person and bind it to the rocks.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I also think it's interesting that it's cross cultures. Like the native tribes and the German settlers.
Yes, actually that is really interesting because you usually only hear native tribes using healing rituals like that. Like you don't really hear settlers like kind of getting involved in those things.
And it did say in a lot of places that I read that the German settlers called it powwows, which is a native term. So I'm wondering if they adopted it. I didn't want to call it that because it feels like it might be a misnomer for what was actually happening there. But the Germans also called it Misery Mountain because of all of the negative energy that was there.
Which makes sense.
Right.
Honestly, I was about to say, it does not surprise me that there have been legends about this place if all of the sickness and illness that people have are being left here.
Right. And apparently, I was like, oh, okay, so native tribes way before Europeans were here. And German settlers, that's pretty early on. But no, these healing rituals continued into the 1950s.
Really?
Yeah, so this is not that far off. And some say that they still continue today.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
That is a very interesting thing that has been taken into modern times. But to be honest, I do feel like, especially now, maybe in like the 2020s, I feel like that's when people started connecting more to the universe, or at least like that's when we've been hearing about it. I'm sure people have been doing that for ages, but it feels like it has a new wave. So that's kind of cool that it might be happening today. Yeah,
it kind of reminds me almost of like Reiki, where you like are energy worker. Like that's what you're doing. You're just manipulating the energy.
Yes.
And to go into the rocks. And if you do want to try to find this rock, it's located in Williams Township off Hexenkopf Road. And I did see mixed reports on whether or not it's on private land, which is also part of why we've never sought it out before. So take that with a grain of salt if you want to go there. So that's the history. Now the paranormal side. And I like this because this is one of those places that has everything. We've got ghosts or spirits. We've got witchcraft or energy working. Again, it all depends on how you want to say these things. And then also bloodshed. Ooh. So it's interesting. Starting from the top is the spirits trapped in the rocks. That's the one that's the biggest claim. And it's no surprise to me that therefore there are these paranormal associations. And overall, a big claim of the area is a feeling of negative energy and evilness.
Right.
That's not surprising to me. But people say it's not just the rock itself, but that it permeates the surrounding woods in a circle, radiating outwards.
Interesting.
And again, I think that could make sense. Like, the only comparison I came to was a really extreme one. Let me think of something else. A battlefield. That's a better one. Like, if you go to a battlefield, I feel like you can just feel the negativity and the death that's there.
Yes.
So I think it makes sense. People report visions of witches dancing, holding hands, like some on the rocks, some near the rocks. And again, I just want everybody listening, because we've been shamed on social media, to know that we use the word witches lovingly.
Yes.
And we're not like accusing anyone of anything.
Right.
That's what it said in all the reports I read. And the source I'm talking about is from the 1860s, so that's the words that they used.
Right.
But like I said, it dates back to the 1860s. So this is documented phenomena going really far back. And Matthew Shope Henry documented the strange happenings in the woods. He lived nearby and he wanted to get to the bottom of what was happening there. He had an informant that snuck into the woods one night and said that he saw these women holding hands and dancing around, allegedly chanting, and that they rode off on broomsticks faster than the speed of lightning.
So, okay, so Matthew Henry saw the actual individuals, and then other people have reported that there are visions of it, or...
Matthew Henry had an informant that saw it.
Okay.
Which...
And they were, like, alive at that point?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they were alive at that point. So, it would be like if I was like, Erica, go sneak into the woods and tell me, is there witchcraft afoot? And you were like, all right. And
sure.
Yeah. And then you came back to me, and then I wrote it in a book.
Okay.
And he actually published multiple books on the stuff that was happening in the area.
I'd be curious to know if the people who reported the visions like had read his books or had never heard of them before, and if they were coming from sources who had not read the like Matthew's writings.
It could be biased, really biased.
But maybe not.
But also, if it's like local legend that this is happening, I feel like, because I was thinking of it, and is it adult women standing holding hands, or is it like young girls?
Right.
You know, that's different. Are people just playing? Are people just dancing in the forest?
Right.
Is it witchcraft? I guess we'll never know. Some other strange happenings, more of like general happenings. People report strange lights while walking through the woods and approaching the rock, and hearing strange sounds. Now, we all know how I feel about the claim of strange sounds, especially in a wooded environment.
Yes.
Because what is it? If they said strange sounds like people screaming, or strange sounds like, I don't know, a vacuum in the middle of the woods, I'd be like, okay, that's kind of weird, but it doesn't say.
And again, in the woods is also really vague, especially because my like worst, not fear, but like the worst thing that can happen when we're on a hike at any point is the trees moaning. You know how trees do that thing where they just like moan for no reason, like they're not falling over, no one's touching them. That can be clarified or classified as strange sounds, and that is literally just a natural phenomena.
Yeah, and that's why I hate that claim, because it's like, what are you really hearing?
Yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt. And also the strange light. This is in eastern PA where there's a lot of mica deposits, which is a mineral. And I don't know if you've ever seen it, but it like reflects light. It looks like little chips of glass almost. Not glass, but like almost like chips of smoky quartz, I guess. And so people are saying that the rock glows because there's mica flecks in it. So it's like naturally reflecting light, which would not be out of the question for that area.
Right.
Visitors also report feeling as if they're being watched, or as if someone's walking beside them as they approach the rock, which I think is an interesting feeling. Being watched, I get, but it's almost like someone's escorting them.
And to me, that's almost like a comforting feeling.
Right.
But I don't know if it is sort of like an eerie, someone's walking beside you. Because when I hear that, though, I do think comforting. Like someone is leading them there.
Right. That's what I thought, too.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe, as we say with a lot of places, it depends on how you go into it, like what your approach is.
Yes. Maybe the spirit, if somebody is walking alongside of them, thinks that they're ill, and that's why they're visiting this rock, and is like escorting them to start performing the ritual.
It's like, y'all need Jesus, except it's like, y'all need nature.
It's Sarah from Linden Hall with the devil room.
Yeah, she's like,
I'm here.
yeah. Tisk tisk. Get over there by those rocks. That's funny. That's a good point though. It could be, especially if it, like, in the afterlife there are spirits of the natives that were there or the German settlers. They could be like, ah, yes, come in.
Yeah.
So I like that version.
Hi listeners, we're so excited to tell you about our partnership with Haunted US. Haunted US is an online publication that brings you credible articles on the history and specific paranormal claims of haunted locations across the country. We've even used them to research some of our episodes. Visit hauntedus.com for new haunted places every Thursday.
So there's also some distinct spirits in the area. And they are, interestingly, the first one not associated with the rocks itself, but just seem to be in the area. So allegedly, there's the ghost of a headless hunter and a headless hunting dog, which is interesting. I don't know why they're both headless.
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything about their deaths. But they chase the spirit of a white fox who has also been seen in the area. And to me, this just sounds like a local legend or like a local twist, kind of like Sleepy Hollow vibes. I'm not saying it's not real.
Yeah.
But it just seems random.
Well, headless hunter is always interesting to me because I feel like that is a pretty, not popular, but like more frequent than you'd think used term.
Yeah.
And I never really knew what it meant. You know, I guess it really just means without a head.
Yeah.
But that's interesting, especially because they're a hunter.
And why is the dog also headless?
Yeah, that's also
If it was just the hunter or just the dog, I'd be like, okay, they got into an accident. But why both?
Yeah.
Unlikely they were both decapitated.
Right.
So, I don't know. And the other thing I was thinking is maybe spirits and residual energy are pulled to this area because there is so much paranormal activity. So maybe they're not even actually associated with each other and they both just ended up there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I wonder if this is very out of left field. This probably has no basis in any kind of fact, but I wonder if, like, at some point, if people were executed, their pets were also executed. Not executed, but
Yeah.
like people's heads were chopped off. I wonder if their pets' heads were also chopped off, and that's the only thing I could think of.
That's sad. Or, here we go, I'm rolling with that. What if they were sick with something that could pass to canines, and so they chopped their heads off to prevent the sickness from spreading? That would depend on what era they're from, if they understood that that would happen.
Yeah.
But maybe.
Yeah.
Why are they hunting a white fox? I don't know.
Right.
But I like these theories.
Yeah.
They could be real. So the next distinct spirit is that of a farmer, and this is more associated with the rocks. So the farmer has one leg and has a wooden leg where the other leg should be. And he allegedly fell from the rocks to his death while chasing a witch through the woods. And some people said that she, like, led him over the rocks purposely because he was trying to catch her, and she was like, oh, you'll, like, die if you cross here. I don't know about that. Yeah. But apparently his apparition is seen there. I do definitely believe that this old man could have been chasing a young female through the woods and fell and died, especially with a wooden leg.
Yes. And that one, I feel bad, of course, for anyone dying, but also, like, you're chasing somebody through the woods. Yeah, maybe
don't be weird.
Maybe don't do that.
Yeah. Just let people live. Yeah. Especially, like, reading the story, I tried to look into, like, was she doing anything to him? Like, was she cursing his family or something? Like, why?
Right.
But I think it was just, like, the witchcraft
era.
And there was actually in this area one woman who was convicted of being a witch. And she was charged with bewitching horses, which is like the Witch of Ridley Creek.
Yes.
Like, why the farm animals? People have better stuff to do. I mean, I'm not a witch, but if I had magical powers, I would do something other than mess with farm animals.
Yes.
Like,
I think most people would. It doesn't make any sense to me that these women are being accused of witchcraft and the evidence is like they're bewitching their horses. It's
right.
like, first of all, if it's their horse, what do you care?
Yeah, who cares?
And second, I guarantee you if they are, that's not what they're doing with their time.
Right. Like anything. Like, I'm going to make little fires. I'm going to manipulate the elements. I'm not going to bewitch a horse.
Yeah.
But apparently, horses in the area are said to sweat profusely and tire quickly. And people think that she is still there bewitching the horses, even in her afterlife.
Yeah.
That's also just like a long time to do something like that. Seems like a lot of effort.
And she's making them worse. Wouldn't you think it'd be the opposite? Like if she was
Right.
bewitching a horse, it would make them like never run out of energy.
That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. Another interesting urban legend is that persisted in the 18th and 19th centuries. And it's that due to the illness placed in the rocks, because they were transferring the energy, that any wind that blew for Hexenkopf Rock had like pestilence and sickness on it. So you had to shut your house in any in the direction that the wind would come from, which I think is really cool.
Yes. Yes. I think that is a really interesting way to look at the wind.
It is. And also we just watched Electra on Saturday, and I was thinking of when Typhoid was walking through the forest and like killing everything. I was like, oh my god, it's like Hexenkopf Rock.
Yes.
It is. If you haven't seen Electra, you're missing out. Go watch it.
Really good one. It's a good one.
It is. But I think that's really cool, and I think it also goes along with a lot of the beliefs of the time period, like with the miasma belief that the dead still could spread a lot of their germs, so you couldn't smell the dead. Like, I think it makes sense.
Yes, definitely.
Visitors today say that there's still paranormal occurrences there, although they seem to be less and less common or just less and less reported.
Right.
But one of the things is that phones stop working, and specifically people say it's hard to find the rock because the GPS stops working whenever you get close to it.
Yeah.
Now, it is in the middle of the woods, but also if some force is telling you don't go there, maybe don't go there.
Yes, agreed.
Maybe
if
just
your
stop.
GPS stops working, you stop.
Yeah, maybe just be done.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense. It could be paranormal or not, but that's one of those things that if we were on an investigation here, I'd be like, I'm just going to keep this in the back of my mind. Maybe we are unwelcome.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's all the paranormal parts of Hexenkopf Rock. Would you visit this place of paranormal phenomenon?
I would. Going off of what we just said, again, if our phone stopped working, if our GPS stops working, if we figure out that we're not really welcome there just based on our intuition, then no. But I do think going and trying to find it and just seeing how far we can get without being disrespectful, without like not following our intuition, I think that would be really interesting. It seems like there's a lot of complicated history here, and so that would be an interesting thing. We always say like it would be cool to see kind of what spirits still remain there if we were able to discern that. So I think
and who wants to interact with us? I mean, just because there's the woman bewitching horses and the farmer and the headless hunter, maybe other people would come up for us.
Yeah,
I think this place is really interesting to me. It's actually one of the few places that we've covered that gives me a bit of pause. I just think so much of that negative energy being trapped in the rocks and people calling it like Misery Mountain and stuff like that makes me hesitant to go. I would go at least once if we could get there and it wasn't on private property.
Yeah.
But I would definitely be trepidatious and, like you said, take into account how we're feeling and are we welcome or not, because I think it could go both ways.
Yes, I think this gives me vibes like the I want to say the fort that we covered, where if you take a rock,
Fort Mifflin.
Yes, Fort Mifflin, where if you take a rock, it just haunts you, and people are literally bringing rocks back to the parking lot. That's what this place feels like, where we would just leave everything alone.
Yeah.
David, no putting anything in anyone's bags.
I feel like if you do that, the spirits will spite you.
Well, hopefully. But that's the vibe I get from you.
Yeah, I agree. So that's what I found on Hexenkopf Rock. This was really widely requested. We got over 10 requests for it. So I'm sure that there's more to the story, and some people that are local might even have additional stories. So if you do, you can always email us at paranormalinpennsylvania@gmail.com or find us on social media at paranormalinpennsylvania. Let us know your stories. Comment on this episode wherever you're listening. We'd love to add in what you guys are saying. And thank you for all of the recs. If you have any more recs, again, reach out to us on those platforms. We do take them into account. And thank you for watching this week's episode. Tune in next Thursday to see what history and hauntings we discuss next. Stay spooky, my friends.